Wow, this one is going to be harder to film than I thought. Welcome to today's video. I'm getting a little bit emotional already, but today we are going to be talking about this beautiful deck right here. This is the Shadow Goddess deck. I know you have probably heard me talk about it a few times already. It's been out since the beginning of September when I first released it. It took me an entire year to make this deck. And I'm just so excited that it is finally here and I get to show it to you today. New to the channel, my name is Anchora. I am a spooky witch where we do witchcraft and Halloween videos all year round, and I'm also an artist. I have a couple of art videos out there as well, and I run my own Etsy shop. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about that is not actually listed on my Etsy, but it's listed on my Big Cartel website, so I'll have that link down below for you guys. But we are going to be talking about how I came about to creating this beautiful deck and exactly what it is for. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, go ahead and keep watching. And if you're new to this community, welcome. I love seeing all the new people that we've been getting lately. All of you ghouls and spookineers have been so amazing and so supportive. So don't forget to subscribe down below and hit that notification bell so you can see future videos. I do upload 2 times a week, and give me a big thumbs up. So this deck here, it is black silk. The texture on it is like a silky kind of a matte fill, and it has the white print and gold foiling on the box. That's also on the back. You can see my name here, Anchora Rose, with the little raven skull right there, which has just become my logo. And this is all about shadow work. So it is an oracle deck. You see here on the sides, Shadow Goddesses, Oracle deck. So what is the difference between a tarot and oracle deck, you may ask? Well, it's pretty easy. Not a whole lot is different. You can still use there's still cards used for divination, but there is a few little things that do separate them. So the biggest thing is that oracle decks are normally smaller, whereas tarot decks have a suit and a certain amount of cards that you have to include, like all the cups and the swords and the major anarcha and everything like that. An oracle deck is a little more free-flowing. They can be anywhere from affirmation cards to animal cards to cards about rocks. I've seen those. They're pretty much about anything. The biggest difference between a tarot deck and this one is tarot decks you can use as like divination, what's going to happen in your future, like all the fortune telling kind of thing. Whereas the oracle deck is more of just lessons of learning. What is it that I need to know today? What is it that I need to work on it tomorrow? What are things that I'm struggling with? Kind of a deck. Or I just need to hear something positive today. You could definitely pull out a card to hear something positive. So actually based on an animal deck. For some reason, I was really resonating with them. And so I didn't actually purchase an actual animal oracle deck until my own deck was almost finished. Because I wanted some more inspiration. I got to a point where I was kind of stuck and I didn't really know what animals to include. So that I purchased a deck, and the way that I had decided was I literally just shuffled them, and whatever cards flew out were going to be goddesses. So if a hawk flew out, there was a hawk goddess. If a dragonfly flew out, there was a dragonfly goddess. And so that's how I decided some of them. Others just kind of came to me. Well, I will get to that here in a second when I explain more about how they were created. But yeah, so they are an animal-based deck. And you're probably wondering, you're like, she's not an animal. Well, this is Dove, the first one. So she is the peacekeeper of all of the goddesses, and they even have stories with them. And if you buy some of the prints that are listed on my Etsy shop, they come with their stories, and it tells about how they became a shadow goddess. Now, the unfortunate thing about becoming a shadow goddess is they must first pass away. And a lot of them have gone through traumatic deaths. And they always see an animal right before they pass away. And that animal is kind of who they become when they become shadow goddesses, because at this point they're in between the living and the dead realm. They live in the center and what I call the shadow realm. And Dove, the one who's right here on the cover, she's the peacekeeper. She can go in between all three realms, whereas the other goddesses are kind of more stuck in the goddess area. But she looks the most humanoid because she can go between them. She's the one that we as people would see more as a spirit and less as an animal. Represents the human animal, because I feel like a lot of times we forget that humans are an animal. And yeah. So that is who is on the cover, is Dove. Some of them have these flowers here at the bottom. They don't stand for any significance, but they are based on the animals. So like the turtle goddess has seaweed. So they're all backed by the gold moon, because I feel like the moon is a really powerful symbol. And I feel like all witches are mainly backed by the moon, because we use a lot of the moon cycles for our spell works, whether it's waxing, waning, full moons, new moons. And then we can feel that energy and we start resonating with it the more that we work within our witchcraft. So I wanted to make sure that the moon was really important. And I really love it because when I first drew the pictures, like if you buy the prints, they're not gold foil, but they're just this really beautiful golden yellow that I absolutely love. And I just liked how that transcended into a gold, because originally it started with a black, white, and yellow palette, which is actually the palette for my business. But it ended up being gold when I made the cards. I'm going to go ahead and read the back of this here. So shadow work often has a negative view with the spiritual community. I created this deck to assist you in releasing yourself and finding the beauty in life's imperfections, becoming a goddess of your shadows. So that is where this came from. I created this deck because shadow work, from what I've seen, has always been extremely negative. People don't want to do it. They don't want to confront their traumas, which is fine. There's a lot of scary things with trauma, and I understand that it can be scary. But that's why I wanted to make this deck, to help it not be so scary, to help it be more beautiful, because without shadows, our world, it wouldn't be real. Like you can see here, I have shadows on the wall and I have shadows behind me. They're what makes our world come alive. It's what makes it dimensional and not flat and boring. And sorry, I always get emotional when I talk about these for some reason. But with the shadow goddesses, it's the same thing within ourselves. We have shadows that make us dimensional. They give us character. They make us who we are. So we're not flat and boring and just photocopies of each other. We're human beings so that we can be different. We have different experiences and we have different things that we have to deal with. And that's beautiful. That's amazing. And I wanted to really get that message out there, because I feel like everyone tries so hard to be like each other that they forget who they are, especially with social media, because we have like these views of what you're supposed to look like. And you have these people that make comments of how you're supposed to say things and how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to respond. But you know what? That's not who we are. We're human. We're different. We have shadows. We have dimension. And that's exactly what shadow work should be about. It's not burying the trauma, but it's transforming with it. It's living with it. Shadow behind me, like you can see that, and it means that it's alive. It's real. I'm alive and real right in front of you, right? And it's the same thing with the shadows within us. yes, the trauma is difficult and it's hard, and a lot of us really, really didn't want to go through it. But there's a reason that we did. There was lessons that we needed to learn out of that, and it built our character. Because without those traumas, as much as they suck, I know, as hard as life has been, I get it. It built us who we are. If I hadn't gone through my life experiences, through childhood, through my divorce with my own son, I wouldn't be the Anchora sitting in front of you here today. I would be a completely different person. And the main thing I want people to get out of shadow work, to get out of my deck, is that you're you because of the traumas and experiences that you have gone through. And that's beautiful. That's amazing. Embrace you. Don't try to cover it up. And there are hundreds of people out there that love you for you, trauma and all. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter what your past is. They love you for you. And you wouldn't be you without the shit that you've gone through. Excuse my language, but I'm not kidding. Like, if you didn't go through what you did, you wouldn't be you. And I feel like I'm saying you a lot, but that's the message I really want to get out with my deck. I don't want shadow work to be negative anymore. I don't want trauma to be negative anymore. Like, I know it's not fun. Trust me, I'm still going through trauma as an adult and learning a lot of valuable lessons. But they're character building. They're there because we need to learn them. They're there because they're lessons that will be valuable to us in the future. Like, I've come through some experiences within the last year that were very traumatizing for me. And as an adult, you don't think about obtaining trauma, but you do. Even it's not always childhood trauma, it's adult trauma too. And then there's been some experiences over this last couple of years that I've experienced adult trauma, but those have helped me so much, and I've learned so much, and I've grown so much. And I think with shadow work, we just get so stuck on it. We get so stuck in the negativity. We're like, I don't want to confront things that happened to me as a child, but it's not always childhood trauma. You can experience trauma as an adult. You can experience trauma as a teenager. To be totally honest, my childhood was not that bad. It was pretty easy. Like, I moved around a lot, and I have some trauma from that because I have a hard time building long-lasting relationships because I moved so often. But a lot of my trauma came to me when I was a teenager and as an adult. I feel like without that, I wouldn't be the Anchora that you are watching today. But that's why I created this. I don't want shadow work to be negative anymore. And that's the biggest thing with this deck. Now, if you're not ready to confront shadow work though, you do not have to use this for shadow work. Since it is animal based, you can use it with your tarot cards or even alone just to do normal readings. There are also words of affirmation in here, so you can use it as an affirmation deck. You can get, like, there's just so much that you can do with. You can use it for more than just shadow work because they're also cards of positivity. They're cards of encouragement. They're cards of thought. Like, some of them have questions on them that I really want you to think about. Like, are your opinions really you, or are they just opinions placed on you by other people? Enough of my ranting. I will open this up and show you guys what is inside. Again, I have these listed down below. I did draw all of these pictures. All 42 goddesses were created by me. And then it has the gold foil on the edge here. It says, release your shadows, become a goddess, embrace you. It is white on the inside, but it is a slide off top. You can see it goes over the top here and it slides off like that. Pretty easy. It does come with a book. I did not want to charge you guys extra for that because I personally like tarot or oracle decks that come with books. rather than them being extra. But this is the golden yellow I was talking about. That's how they originally started until I decided I wanted to do gold foil. It is very small because it's just guidance. I want a lot of this to be done via intuition. If you're like, well, I'm still working on it, that's okay. Practice is the best way to work on something. So just keep practicing with it. And they're actually pretty easy. So I'll show you here in a minute. And then I did a handwritten message on the back. This is my handwriting. It says, love who you are. And then the book was written by me, which was a lot of fun. So I'll talk about that here in a second too. And then you can pull them out. They fit pretty easily. Now the edges of these are just white because I know not everyone likes the gold foil edging. So I decided to leave that off, but it is white. So if you want to gold foil them or like paint them gold yourself, you are able to do that because there's no color or anything on the sides. But when you open it up here, this is the back of the card. It has the moon here and the gold foil, a little moon magic speckles as well. And then it has the plants going around it. Now, this deck is based on not only animals, but there's also plants and bones in here, which means that it is a pretty blunt deck. It's going to come out and be like, hey, you know, you really got to work on this kind of a thing. So I tried to make it as straightforward as possible. And then here are the cards here. There are 42 goddesses. I have released a few videos of how I made these on my TikTok down below. But I haven't released all of them because I kind of want it to be a surprise. The first 5 I show a lot, but the rest of them I haven't shown all of them because when you get them, I want it to be a surprise on like what animals are in here and stuff like that. I did release a video of the list of animals, but I didn't release the artwork for all of them. So this is the first one, Dove. She is the peacekeeper with the humans between the living and the dead realm. And they keep the balance, just like they're going to help you keep the balance within yourself. So you can see that here. And then down here, it has a little message. So find peace within yourself. And that's where I want the card to be more intuitive reading because it has the messages down below. So if it says find peace within yourself, maybe you're struggling about a decision or something right now, or there's something that you can't decide on, or you're fighting with yourself, then she's a reminder to keep the peace and to find the in-between, compromise with yourself. Because in all honesty, you're going to have a relationship with your own subconscious. So sometimes compromise is needed. But yeah, that is the card here, the front and the back. They are absolutely beautiful. I am blown away, even though I'm the one who made them. Like, it sounds so crazy, but I look at these in awe all the time. Just because like I'm impressed with myself. I'm impressed with the printer quality on these. And they're just so beautiful. And it's amazing to see something go from a thought, an idea, to a sketch, to digital work, and then to a physical object that can be held and used, which is amazing. Like I mentioned before, it took me about a year to finish these. Now, I didn't work on it really hard. It was like on and off for a year. And so I will go ahead with that, talk about how they were created. And then we'll pull a card so I can read you guys a description and talk a little bit more about the shadow work side. So how they were created is I have a tarot deck that is also black and gold. Remember, I had just been gifted this tarot deck by my partner. He gave it to me for my birthday. And I didn't use them at first. I came from a very restrictive religious household. And so it was drilled in my head that tarot cards were terrible. They were bad. You had to sell your soul to the devil to be able to use them and like all this crazy stuff. So it took me a few months before I finally got them. He gifted them to me in March and I didn't start using them until later that year in August. I just I set them on my desk and I just kept staring at them because I felt like they were calling for me and I wanted to use them, but I was kind of afraid of them. So if you're new to witchcraft and you have that similar feeling, it's okay. It's just because society tells us that it's bad, but they're just tools. Like, they're tools to help you out with your ideas. Like, there's nothing soul selling about these. Like, they're just cards, guys. But when I got that, I was brand new to it. I was aware of witchcraft and I kind of felt a calling for energy, and I really loved crystals. I collected them just because they looked really pretty. I didn't know a whole lot about them yet. But I just barely started it, and that's why my partner got me the tarot deck, because his mom is actually a shaman and she uses those. So both of them really wanted me to give it a try. I just felt a calling, and so I started drawing on this notebook of mine. This is actually the notebook that I use for my tarot readings. I take notes in here, and what polls I did, the questions I was asking per card, and the responses that I got. But I just started drawing on the cover. So here she is. You can see it's so pretty. And I filled it in with a gold marker. So that's kind of where the goldy yellow came from, and then transitioned into gold foil. Yeah, but it's just so pretty. And to see it go from this to this is incredible. I love it so much. So I started drawing right on this notebook. So obviously the notebook is black. Duh. I had a white marker on my desk and I had a gold marker. And so with the white marker, I just started going at it. I didn't draw a sketch first. I didn't do like any of the normal steps I would take for artwork. I just grabbed my white marker and I went for it. And it actually turned out incredible. Like, this is a really nice piece of work for not drawing a sketch beforehand or even having a plan, to be honest. It was just something I really felt like I wanted to draw right away. And so that is where it started. It was a calling. I feel like it was a gift to me from Spirit while I was doing my tarot readings. A gift from Spirit. It was information that I needed to hear, and it was information that needed to be brought out to the public. And so I don't have much explanation other than that. Like, I felt a calling. I felt I needed to draw it right there and right now. And this is what came out of that. And that was the first one. Now, I didn't touch them again for a while. I just thought it was a really cool drawing, and I went about my business until it hit about September. So about a month later, where I was like, I really like this one. And then I made it digital. That's where the Raven came in. And it's funny because the first 5, that's exactly how they went. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yep, that's 5. That's how it went. The rest of them are kind of mixed up, and I just got to them here and there. But the first 5 came in order, 1 through 5. I actually drew her in a little sketchbook that I carry around in my bag at my friend's house. I saw a picture of a raven skull. So almost exactly like her skull here. And all of a sudden, I had drawn out her exactly the way it is here. With this girl holding on to the raven skull with the design around her, and it was starting to look a lot like dove. And I was like, this design seems familiar. And then I realized it was the same thing or very similar to what I drew on my journal. And so I feel again that this was a message that Spirit was giving me. It was like, okay, you have the first one, now here's the second one. And I've always been pretty good at listening to the Spirit. When I was a kid, I would hear my name being called all the time. I grew up with deja vu. It was very thick in my life, as in I experienced it so often that I was very familiar with deja vu at an extremely young age, like 7 years old. I was very familiar with what deja vu was. And with my dreams, I always listened to them. I tried to interpret them. So I've been pretty good at listening to Spirit without realizing that's what it was. Because in the witchcraft community, they call it Spirit, or your higher self, which other cultures will call it your higher self. The culture I was raised in, they kind of disregarded it. They didn't really, at one point, my mom thought that God was calling my name, and she told me to answer, but that was not a good idea. That's a story for another time. I will share that another time, but don't answer that. If they're calling your name, don't answer, please. At least in my experience, it wasn't good, but that's for another time. So I've always been pretty good at listening to spirit and listening to my intuition and trusting myself. And so when this came out, I was like, you know what? I think that there's more to this. It just seemed a lot more than just a coincidence for me to draw two similar designs a month apart. At that point, I had kind of forgotten what she looked like because I hadn't done my tarot cards at all that month. Like, I did it once or twice and then I didn't touch them again. But yeah, I was like, you know what? There's a little more to this. I should create more of them. And so that is where the cat came. And it was very similar to Raven. Actually, Raven and the cat were done in the same night and in the same sketchbook. A picture of the cat skull, a half one just like this. It's actually very similar to my icon over on my Etsy account, where you can see like my face is sideways and like the cat skull is on the top half. So that's pretty much the picture that I saw. And I drew that icon, and then I drew Brumilla because I absolutely loved the half cat skull. And then the rest of it just kind of came to be. Like, I didn't even plan on giving her 4 arms, and I'm not even sure that many people notice that she has 4 arms. But 2 of them crossed and then 2 of them out holding onto some crystals. And I didn't give it any forethought. I just kind of let it flow. I let it come out. When I drew these pictures, I let it go. I didn't second guess it. I didn't be like, why does she have 4 arms? I didn't guess, why are 2 of them crossed? I just drew it. Like, I just let it go and I just drew it. And so, so that was the cat. And then next after that, I came up with the goat to be like this. And she has the armor suit here. And you can see that they have the skull with the human face underneath. And the different parts of their body are actually skeleton too. So like, she has a skeleton back. So does she. She's like hollow. Like, there's no body right here. And then she has the skeleton chest. So. And then Billy is one of my favorites. Her story is really incredible. So if you ever purchase her print, it comes with her story on how she passed away, and she is a badass. So the next one, Fawn. She is our healer, our medicine man. I honestly cannot really remember where I got the inspiration for her. A few of them were actually requested by followers. So if you're an OG over from TikTok, where I originally started all of this, a few of you requested the animals. And so those made it in here. The bat was a request. I had one girl in particular. She asked me if I could do a bat goddess. And this is what came of that. I thought that it was a really good idea because bat skulls are actually pretty awesome. Now, their ears are not skulls. It's actually cartilage. And it was the same thing with the dragon. Let me find that one. The dragon was another request. So that is her. Another one of my favorite cards because she represents infinity. And see, you can kind of see she is drawn up in an infinity sign. Unlimited possibilities. You can do anything. Your potential is endless. So she is a huge favorite of mine. And actually, fun fact, she is actually the daughter of the turtle goddess. And you're probably wondering how that works. Well, magic. That's all I have to say. So the turtle goddess is a mother. The turtle goddess, she is our mother. She teaches about persistence and patience, having endurance to run through it, because if you've ever had a child before, there is definitely a lot of endurance, that training on your body. It is a very difficult thing to do. And you can see she's staring down at her belly. So inside this belly is the dragon goddess. She's in there. And that's another reason why she's all wrapped up in the fetal position, because newborn babies are infinite possibilities. I felt like the messages that they were giving were very similar to what I was learning at the time. They were messages that I also needed to hear at the time, especially when it comes to this last few where they're jumbled up. I created 37 and then I created 40 and then I created 16. Like they're just kind of all over the place. They didn't go in order like these first 5 did. After I had decided, I did these 5 cards and I released them as a Halloween print line over on my Etsy shop. And I was like, oh, cool, look at these Halloween prints that I made. I didn't touch them again until I want to say May of the next year. So it was October when I released these 5 for Halloween prints. And then it was May of the next year that I started creating more of them. I started doing my TikTok again. People over on TikTok really liked them. Raven went viral a few times. Everyone loves her. She's amazing. She's a really cool design. And I decided I wanted to make more of them. So I made the bat and I made a horse and the dragon. And then I had enough of them where I was like, you know what? I'm going to make an oracle deck, because at this point I had learned a lot more about witchcraft. I was into it more. I was learning about energy healing and I was reading my tarot cards more, and I had purchased like 5 or 6 other oracle decks that I absolutely love and enjoy. And I was starting to learn about shadow work because I definitely had a lot of things I wanted to work on myself. I was healing and I was going through a really hard time in my life. Long story short, I had gotten these goddesses when I was learning how to cope with those. And that's shadow work. Shadow work isn't always about things that you go through at your child or things that are deep and hidden that you're not aware that's happening or you're not aware that is bothering you. Shadow work can be things that you're going through now, things that are still hurting you from last year or even last month or yesterday. It's just stuff that you need help processing. And so I felt that spirit was giving me these messages because I was in a time of need. I was in a position where I couldn't process what was happening and I couldn't really cope. And I was gifted my partner, who's again amazing, but I was still having a hard time coping. I was still having a hard time processing, and I didn't want him to feel burdened. But that could be a whole nother video. I don't want to go into that too much. So I started getting these goddesses in that time. I felt like it was something I really needed to work through and I was really having a hard time with. And some of them, even though I've gotten the messages for them, I haven't worked through them yet. I actually just learned one of them like yesterday, so I can talk about that too. And so those messages come across in the book. I will go ahead and read Dove because it has like a little intro for you. Dove. So she's right here. They are numbered, so you can find them. She is the symbol of peace. She is the bridge between the living and the shadow realm, and she is our main guide in the world. The dove asks us to find peace with ourselves. What are we not at peace with? Is this unease really from our own thoughts and feelings, or do others place those thoughts on us? She asks us to take a look because you're ready for the journey ahead. She asks us to release the emotional disharmony within ourselves and to remove the internal trauma we are storing or holding on to. She reminds us that good awaits once the internal conflicts are expelled. And that is exactly what I was learning. So another thing with my Oracle deck is I really wanted to help people break cycles because I feel like a lot of my trauma from when I was a teenager is just cycle extensions from when my parents were teenagers. And my parents were pretty reckless teenagers and I was not reckless, but they treated me as if I was. And so that created a lot of trauma and a lot of dysfunction and a lot of hurt within our family. And so that's another thing that I really wanted to help people work on. That's really what my deck is about, is I want to help people the best that I can by giving them a tool to work through situations or traumas or whatever it is that they need to do. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier that I had just learned one of these goddesses, and this will be a really good example for you. So the way that you would use these is you just shuffle them up. You can do like a quick shuffle for one to fly out, or you can do like the traditional card shuffle where you break it in half and wait for some to fly out, or you can just take it and you can pull from the top, or you can open it and you can pull from the middle. Like Elephant, learn from the past. That's a really good one. I love her. And so you can use these any way that way. So you can read intuitively, like learn from the past. Well, what is something that happened to me recently? A friendship broke off, and so that's just something I need to learn from. I've repeated a mistake recently. I need to learn from that. And so that's what she's asking. And then you can even go to the book and you can read from the book, the description, and some of them have questions. So like with Dove, she had some questions in there, and they're more like journaling prompts. Like, I want you to write them down and journal about them. And if you don't really like journaling, then just think about it. Or you can do like voice recording where you can say the question and then you can record your responses so you can listen to them later. Or it's just something to think about. Like one of Dove's is, what are we not at peace with? So we have to like sit there and meditate and think, like, what am I not at peace with? Like, what's bothering me? And really delve and dig into it. And well, why is that bothering me? And just kind of go down the rabbit hole. Like, I know a lot of us try to avoid it, but it's necessary. So the one that I learned recently, because I haven't actually learned all of them, they take time. Healing takes patience. Let's see here. It was actually the armadillo. She's pretty cool. The armadillo is protect yourself and set boundaries. This one, I'm actually surprised that I had to learn, because up until this moment, I thought I had pretty clear boundaries, especially as an Aries. I love to say no. Just no. And sometimes I can be a little bit closed off to things. And so I always thought that that was my boundaries. But to come to think about it, it was not. Yes, they may have been personal boundaries, but I didn't have boundaries with other people. So like if I was upset and I wanted to go rant to a friend about it, I didn't have any boundaries about that. I would just go and expect them to respond to me and to rant with me and to be upset with me and to have the same feelings and emotions that I do, even though that they don't. They're different people. And so that's a fault I had to work on, that shadow work. And so I just barely learned this one yesterday. So setting boundaries, she's number 16. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one here. Mini impromptu reading. So this will show you a little bit about my ideal way to use the cards. You, under no circumstances, have to use them this way. Maybe you drew this card with your tarot cards, and then together they have a collective message for you. No way do you have to do it this way. This is just how I like to use them, and then this is how I created them. So 16, the armadillo. I'll put her right here so you can stare at her. The armadillo is warning us to set healthy boundaries. She is curled up to show self-preservation is key. She holds her hand out to show it's okay to accept opportunities and gifts that are being given to us, but we need to do so with our spiritual and physical needs in mind. She asks us to develop self-defense without blocking ourselves from the world. The goddess has her tail slightly open to reveal some part of her magic to life. She is asking us to do the same. She wishes for us to take care in our relationships and shield ourselves while remaining open so we can still learn the lessons sent to us. Are we blocking out too much? Is this barrier holding back our emotions as well? Are we in healthy relationships with coworkers, friends, and family? Empaths especially need to take care of the energies around them. thinking about that, are we blocking out too much? So one of those things that I had learned is with our current circumstances in our world is I put up this huge wall. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear about it because I just didn't like it. I was very upset by it. And I was upset with what was happening. And so now it has become a trigger because I wasn't able to set those boundaries. And so now every time I hear anyone talk about the current world situation, it triggers me terribly. I can go into anxiety attacks. I can go into panic attacks. And it's because I didn't set a healthy boundary. And another way is, are we healthy in our relationships with coworkers and friends? So that's definitely something we need to think about. Now, I was explaining that I would get upset and I would rant and I would text a friend and I would expect them to feel the same way and for them to rant along with me. But one thing that I didn't realize is when you rant to people, it not only takes your energy away, it helps you feel better. But the problem is that energy has to go somewhere. It doesn't just dissipate, it cycles around. So that energy most of the time gets transferred to whoever it is that you're ranting to. And now all of a sudden they feel angry and they feel negative. And those are the healthy boundaries that Armadillo has recently taught me. So I am really sad to say that it took me this long to learn that lesson, but better late than never, right? So that was something that I had learned. And I didn't realize that until I saw a post from one of my friends on Instagram. Her friends, before they start ranting, they actually ask, are you okay enough that I can give you some negative energy, kind of a thing. So, and then asking if energy-wise, if they're up to them ranting. And I don't know, it was a click. Like at that point, I was like, oh my God, like I just spent all day long ranting to a bunch of people and not once did I ask them about their thoughts, their opinions, if they even had the energy to listen to me rant that day. And that was a very important message that I had learned from the Armadillo this week. It wants us to create those boundaries, not only within ourselves, but with our relationship as each other. It doesn't mean to cut yourself off. It's more of, is this okay? You need to be asking permission. You need to be asking for consent. Is it okay that I rant to you today? Do you have the energy for me to rant a little bit? Because I feel like a lot of the times when we do rant, or we talk with coworkers or family members, it becomes an ambush. Like you just go to them full-fledged with all this energy and you're like, I need to talk about this with someone now. And so you just start talking to them and it becomes a very one-sided conversation. And so that's just a really important lesson there, is to set those boundaries instead of approaching it that way and expecting them to have the energy to, humor you on your rants, I guess, for lack of a better word, humor you on your rants, is to expect have their boundaries too. See, she still has a hand open because it's okay to have help and it's okay to offer help, but don't expect it from people. Those are what healthy boundaries are about. And that is part of shadow work too, is, do you not have healthy boundaries because you weren't raised with healthy boundaries? If you had strict parents, then you probably don't know how to cope with healthy boundaries. You haven't been taught them because strict parents normally don't have healthy boundaries. They don't have boundaries at all. Everything in your life is theirs too. And so it can create a lot of problems when you become an adult. And the same thing when you're a teenager. Did you have healthy boundaries with your friends as a teenager? And most of the time the answer is no, because with teenagers, you feel like you have to be close with everyone and you have to be very physical. And so those boundaries get lost and you're not really sure what is a healthy boundary. And so that's something that's very important. And that's one of the messages I want to get across with shadow work. And that's literally it with these cards. Like, it's so easy. You can do one at a time. You could do 3 at a time. You could do a whole spread and do like 5 of them at a time. They're even transferable with card spreads that you see online. One like the future, present, and past. So if you pull out like 3 of them, maybe setting boundaries was a problem for you in the past. You got this for your past card. And maybe present, you got Dove, finding peace. So that's what you need to work on now, is now that you have boundaries, you need to find inner peace. And then the future one, maybe that is fawn with love and harmony. So it like kind of goes in order. Like, this is what you've already worked on. You need to work on dove now. And then in the future, you're going to have to learn how to have the same love for other people as you just learned how to do for yourself. So, and they all connect, they come together, they go in and out from each other. Some of them mention other ones, but it's one of those things where you just use your intuition, interpret it to your life, because I can't speak for you. I can't speak for your trauma. I can't speak for your thought process or your mind. And that's something that you have to do for yourself. And so one of the great things about the cards is, since the book is so small, the descriptions are small and they're vague, and most of them just ask a lot of questions because I want you to think, I want you to experiment with it, and, you know, just really start thinking about things, digging underneath the surface. And I've actually heard, this is new. This is new information to me, but I've heard that some people are experiencing trauma from doing shadow work, and I find that to be very sad. And I'm not sure how to answer that. If any of you have that question, like you're afraid of shadow work because you don't want to experience more trauma, the only thing I can think of is it brings up past memories that maybe you hid and you didn't remember, and that trauma comes back when it gets undug with shadow work. But the thing is if you're hiding it, it's still working its negative energy on you. Even if you don't have it in your forefront, your subconscious still uses it for all of your thoughts and your behaviors. So the only thing I can say for that, if it's hidden that deep, if it is that deep, then it probably needs to be addressed first, because the deepest wounds are the hardest to heal and they're going to take the longest, and you need, my speculation. Again, I am not a trained therapist. These are a deck of cards I have made from my own experiences with life and messages that I feel like Spirit has brought down to me, things that I have learned from family members that I was able to turn to for guidance, and friends that I was able to turn to for guidance. But yeah, and I just wanted to make a video and explain exactly what they were, because I found that I was talking about them, but not a whole lot of people understood how to use them or exactly what they were meant for or how it even relates to shadow work. Because as far as I know, I haven't seen another deck like this. I actually haven't seen anything else that helps with shadow work physically. Everything I've seen has been videos online or like those self-help books. They're really obvious, like the titles are really obvious. So if it's something that you want to hide from people, this deck is perfect, because as far as anyone else knows, they're just shadow goddesses. They don't really know what shadow work is. They're like, oh, it's probably just some witchy cool thing. Like they don't really understand exactly what it's for. And to them, it's just a deck of cards. And if you're in one of those, like if you're still in the broom closet, I love that expression, but it's just really cool artwork. And that's something that my brother bought it for, because he doesn't practice witchcraft, but he loves the artwork. He just wanted to have the cards so that he could look at them. And so that's another thing. You could get them and just be like, well, I just like the artwork. And she sold it in a pack of cards. So something to think about. But yeah, this video was super, super long. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me. Yeah, that is my shadow deck. Those are my goddesses. I'm not sure what else to say on the deck as of right now. I just wanted to give a very brief description of exactly what they were, how they were created. I will make another video about the process, like the behind the scenes process of who I went through to get them created, how I turned in the artwork, and all of that stuff. But this is more of just like a story time. I wanted to explain the deck and why I created them, how they've helped me, how they've helped friends around me, and how I would like them to help you. And so I just want to say thank you guys so much for sticking with me today. I know it's been a lot longer than usual. I try to keep my video short, but there's just so much information on these. And if you are interested, I have them linked down below in my link of wonders. They are on my Big Cartel website. They are not on my Etsy. So just keep that in mind. There is a link on my link tree that specifically says Oracle cards. So just click on that. They'll take you exactly where you need to go. And if you guys ever have any readings that you would like to share with me, just go ahead and share them over on Instagram. You can use the hashtag Anchora Rose, and I will see that reading. A lot of times I have messages to give back to you, or if I feel like you got it on point, then I'll be like, oh, that looks really good, kind of a thing. So yeah. Thank you guys again so much, and I hope that you enjoyed today's video. It was a lot of fun to finally be able to talk and explain about exactly what the deck is, and I just hope that they will help more people out there, because I understand that there is a lot of trauma in the world right now, and it couldn't be a better time for the shadow goddesses to lend a hand and guidance. And I just hope that you see those shadow goddesses not only in cards, but in your life around you. So thanks again so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, hit a big thumbs up, and leave a comment down below if you have any other questions. And until next time, keep on spooking, all you ghouls and spookineers.